All right, so going to introduce our next speaker. She is, like Axel said, the ambassador of Russian innovation in Silicon Valley to the United States, to Russia. She knows her stuff, she's awesome, and she's going to talk a little bit about just how it all comes together and how we're going to all work together to just promote the U.S.-Russia economic relationship and partnership. I'm going to introduce Alexandra Sasha Johnson.
Good evening. First of all, I apologize for my voice. And I know what the trick was to get you to wait until the end of the evening, because there is no way you will leave and you'll continue talking when a lady is standing up in front of you. So I guess those two gentlemen still want to talk to each other, but see, it worked. Whoever organized it, right? It's a good idea. So why am I standing in front of you? Let me try and explain this to myself first. I happen to know all three entities, that is the Institutes of Economic Development, RVC, and Rosnano, and Skolkovo from inside. What does it mean? It means that the Russian venture company is an investor in the first fund where I work. Rosnano is an investor in the second fund. And Skolkovo is a platform which is a personification of all the changes happening in Russia. Now, when Draper Fisher Jurison decided to enter the Russian market, and that was after some 20 years, 25 years in business, and they had the map of the countries where DFJ had presence. And it was Israel, Korea, China, Brazil, India, Korea, yeah, we said that. And there was this big gap of the huge geography of Russia, because it was impossible to get a venture fund going there. But in 2006, we decided to get in, and that was a sin. No legislature which would allow for a proper venture fund to work. No entrepreneurs as a class. There were no educational centers which would train entrepreneurs. There were no partners, and there were no professional managers. So when people from Silicon Valley see something like that, and that is venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, let me tell you, they're probably more spoiled than investors here, because whoever I met tonight probably are more accommodating for newcomers. In Silicon Valley, venture capital is a club. It's not easy to get in, and it's hard to persuade them to go outside and do something out of the comfort zone. And there are a couple of investors from California right now at that table, so they would not let me tell you something which is not true. And then what happened? And then the Russian venture company decided to jumpstart a whole industry. And what Professor Charlie Cooney just said 15 minutes ago, that it's rare in anybody's lifetime when you can be present in the beginning of a new development. Can you imagine development of a new industry? And that's what the Russian venture company did. Jump-started the whole industry in Russia. And after that, Rosnano joined the scene, and they managed to transform this big bureaucratic organization into a fund of funds on one point and an entity which can make direct investments. But then the next step would be to get sophisticated investors from all over the world to come to Russia. And why would they do that? When there are options. If you're a successful venture fund anywhere in California, New York, or Boston, your choice of entrepreneurs is the world. You can invest in companies in China, and in Brazil, and in Turkey, and they all come to you, especially to California. So what is the best way to get investors to start paying attention to that scene in Russia? And that's when Skolkovo came in. And it's an amazing project in the sense that, you know, anybody can say that there are Silicon Valleys of the world, And various countries started it, somebody with more success, other countries with less success, all over the world. It's impossible to replicate what Silicon Valley has, but it is possible to have your own center of excellence. And that's what Skolkovo is striving to be. Now, what happened next? What happened next? How do you actually get into business? I don't know a lot about other businesses, but in venture capital, it's all about trust. It's all about choosing a partner with whom you'll stay together over years. It's not about making a quick investment and flipping it. It's about having a fund and staying together with your team, with your portfolio companies for, in general, 8-9 years. And it's not an easy task. So what did the Russian venture company did? They became partners. They became investment partners of major Silicon Valley funds. And again, it's a closed club. It's not that easy to become an investor in a top venture fund. And the Russian venture company pioneered in that sense. And Rosnano joined in being co-investors in portfolio companies of major US funds. And now Skolkovo hopefully will see Silicon Valley funds, New York or Boston funds showing up in Moscow so that we finally can have a syndication. And that is why I agreed to be an advisor to Skolkovo, president of Foundation of Venture Capital. And that is why I'm talking in front of you. But the real tricks of the trade and all the secrets, I would ask to share Dmitry Akhanov, who is CEO of Rosnano USA. And if you're as nice as you are listening to me, he will probably share some of them with you. Here's Dmitry Akhanov, Rosnano USA.
Well, Sasha, thank you so much. Really unexpected. I was supposed to thank Igor and Axel for the invitation to speak here, but Sasha, thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction. I will not try to waste much of your time speaking about myself and my company, but still a brief overview I think will be useful. First of all, why I'm here and why Rosnano and RVC are close and connected together. It was said already that Skolkovo, Rosnano and RVC are being viewed as free state initiatives to support innovation, venture capital, growth, technology, startups, and overall new ecosystem in Russia. And this is absolutely true. We are actually parts of the value chain. If you look at how the companies are being created, they start from Skolkovo, where the high-class research is being done and the startups emerge with the grant support. Then they go for seed financing and early stage financing, which is being done by RVC funds. And later, Wikikin, as Rosnano being the late stage VC private equity fund, actually created initially to support and overcome the death valley of commercialization for the companies in the specific field of nanotechnologies. So some words about ourselves. We were created 4 years ago, as I said, as a state fund, state-controlled entity. We've overcome, during these 4 years, a lot of problems, troubles, growth issues, and today we have two arms. One arm is a $10 billion investment fund as an entity which does commercial investments as a late-stage investor in startups or the partner for the mature companies. And the second arm, which we spun off from Rosnano, is a fund for infrastructure and educational programs. And this is actually we can call it a state development agency, which invests in infrastructure for the development of nanotechnologies, which funds educational programs, does what we call the demand management, making big companies across Russia to buy more and more innovative products and invest in new technologies. Our main capital derived from the government. It was half of the capital which we have. We raised the second half on the debt market, which was still backed by the state. And as I said, we invest in nanotechnologies primarily. There is a pretty broad definition of what nanotechnology is, at least for us. So any manipulation of material objects which are less than 100 nanometers in size, that's nanotechnology for us. So de facto, we can aim, and we do aim, at a pretty broad range of sectors. You can see on the slide, it's almost everything. It's easier to say what we don't do. We don't do software and internet. But any material-based business where we can find a trace of nanotechnology being used or nanotechnology enabled, that's our focus. That's where we go to. So de facto, we are pretty broad, starting from pure semiconductors, going to life sciences, advanced materials, photonics and photovoltaics, and so on and so forth. In the last 4 years of our existence, we have committed about $7 billion to 130 portfolio companies, both in the US and globally. And actually today we are looking for new investments like any other fund. We're looking for first-class companies with a global perspective who are willing to start doing some kind of business in Russia, either expand their R&D facilities into Russia or have their manufacturing facility, either pilot or full scale in Russia, but not for the Russian market only. We are really looking and we're aiming to invest in a global companies with a global approach to the markets. And in reality, many companies we've invested in start their manufacturing in Russia with understanding of opportunities and the benefits which they can gain from both West Russian territory and easy access either to Asian markets or to Western European markets by existence of natural resources of different kind and many other state initiatives like Skolkovo, for example. We do encourage all our portfolio companies to spun off their R&D facilities, and they're all trying to become Skolkovo participants, apply for grants, and benefit from the ecosystem which exists. As you can see on the side, we are pretty global in terms of our commitments and investments. And actually, it's pretty new development. We were allowed to invest overseas only in October 2010. So in about 14 months, for example, we have made more than 12 investments in the US. We've invested historically with different size of investments, starting from $2 million, and our largest check was $500 million. As of today, we find our sweet spot somewhere in between from $30 to $50 million. That's what we aim for. And to support our development, as we saw a lot of interest and a lot of potential in collaboration with the US, we opened an office in the Silicon Valley in March last year, which I'm the head of. Actually, it's the shared office for Rusnano, Skolkovo, and RVC. It doesn't mean that we invest only in the Silicon Valley. We invest across the US and Canada. And actually, 3 out of 12 of our portfolio companies in the US are Boston-based, and we have committed more than $100 million into these 3 companies. We also have acted as an LP with certain funds. We have 5 joint projects approved, and we've committed to in the US. Actually, 2 of them were launched already. You can see pretty good names there, like DFJ, Burrell, Harris & Harris, Domain Associates. And of course, we do have investments directly into companies. These are our major companies. You can find Free, Bind, Selecta, and Joule. These are all Boston-based companies. 2 of them, Bind and Selecta, have originated from the Robert Lang's labs. And Joule was established by the Flagship Labs, which is also local VC here. It's a pretty sizable commitment to us, $2.7 billion in total size and about $600 million for these companies. That's what we've achieved so far. And it's definitely not the end and not the limit. We see a lot of potential. We have many projects now being discussed with our partners in the US. We do feel that for us as an investor, US is the largest potential market for the investments. And of course, expanding our investment focus and expanding what we can do, what we cannot, we definitely see a growing interest from our both portfolio companies and our potential portfolio companies into doing business with us. Because we can bring on board not only money, which any other VC can do, but also our expertise in both Russian and next to Russia markets like CIS and Eastern Europe. We know how to open doors. We are a very good partner, both in bringing state authorities on board, and state support is always good in any emerging country. And of course, by bringing industrial partners from almost any sector which exists in Russia. And we're absolutely keen to do this to our portfolio companies because both the company will benefit and we as investors will definitely benefit from that. Just as I said, we aim to do business which will bring us a decent IRR on our investment and which will, of course, make Russia benefit from the development which arrives here. We totally see huge potential for using of the engineering talent which exists in Russia. And it was a little bit amazing for myself, for example, but what I saw that Russia not being on the radars, say, for the majority of US startups, when they think about their manufacturing allocation or anything like that, when people start, to get to know what's going on, talking to us, coming to Russia, talking to potential partners, many of them, not in all the cases, but in the majority of cases, they find out that Russia is not a bad place to do business in. It's not any worse than China, India, Brazil, or many other countries. But to do that and to understand that, you have to make the first attempt, the first effort to be willing to get to know Russia. And actually, this is the place and area where definitely both Skolkovo, RVC, and Rusnano benefit from joint collaboration. Because our joint forces in the US help bring people on board, and any success story, either for Skolkovo, for Rusnano, for RVC, from this success story, all two other parties will benefit as well. Because more people knowing that Russia is an attractive place to do business, more business we will have, more returns the country and the people will do. So I totally believe in success of the Boston office for RVC. Now they have 2 offices. We are still working from 1, which, as I said, doesn't mean that we don't pay attention to Boston area at all. And I'm totally aware that all of you being present here will see us and hear us not once and not twice in the foreseeable future. And thank you so much for your time.